I am Lizzie Smith with RealAgriculture.com, and joining me now is Tyler Fulton. He's the Director of Risk Management with Hams Marketing, based at Winnipeg. Welcome here, Tyler.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right. I wish we were, talking under better circumstances, but here we are. It is late in the week, first week of April, and the hog market has sort of tanked. So catch me up. What's all going on?
Well, in the context of everything COVID-19, livestock markets and more specifically hog markets have seen just unprecedented volatility. We're looking at I think it's safe to say in the last 10 days a price collapse from a North American price standpoint. I think you can reference either the futures or the cash market, but both of them are heading in the exact same direction. And so what we've got is all of the uncertainty that associates to the COVID-19 outbreak, whether that's concerns about export logistics or relative supply against the capacity to slaughter the animals, and labor disruptions that obviously have a direct impact on that. So all of this stuff is being worked in addition to the fact that our demand curve is completely it's probably unlike anything we've ever seen before, just because of the percentage of consumers that are staying at home and not utilizing food service.
Right. And this is one of those things that I think as an industry we're grappling with, trying to, get a sense of where so many of the commodities really are, right? I mean, people are clearly, we have to eat, that's fine. But the restaurant business, the retail side, our consumption patterns have just completely gone out the window in the past 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever we're at now.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, this is unlike, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, talk about 1998, but this is happening not just domestically, not just North America. This is worldwide changing demand patterns. And then, of course, as you mentioned, those supply concerns, which, of course, we're hearing about this week out of Quebec as well with the Olymel plant. So take me through, though, how bad is it? Can we put it in context of what happened in 98?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very apt analogy. And it's one that, given that it's more than 20 years ago, it's one that's not, front and center. But for anybody that's in the hog business today that was back then, they will have a real memory of the hurt that caused. And probably more than anything else, more than any other single event, that probably led to a rationalization of the industry in Canada, in terms of a reduction in the number of producers that were actually that were active hog producers. So what happened in 1998 really was a disjunct between the supply of hogs that were being grown or produced and the capacity to actually process them. The previous couple of years were really good, strong years, and it resulted in huge growth in the herd because it was motivated by high prices. But on the flip side, it outpaced that growth in slaughter capacity, and that led to a pinch in the fall of 1998. And so the comparison today is pretty important. While it's not at the same critical time frame of the hog cycle, of the annual hog cycle, where we typically see the highest production in the fourth quarter, we're looking at a very similar scenario in that we're currently running hog slaughters in the United States of 7-8%, with year-to-date, year-over-year increases of 5%. Over the last 15 years, a big gain year over year was, maybe 2.5%. So it's at a very critical time frame where we're seeing huge growth in the hog supply and constraints to where that product can go. Mm-hmm. And so when you see an event where there's a reduction in the processing capacity, then it has an absolute direct impact on the value of all hogs in the North American context.
Okay, so, we're struggling sometimes to find any sort of good news, and I'm not even going to try in this one, but there are no easy answers as to, how long this goes on or how we, make our way out of it or whatever. But in the very short term, we've still got piglets being born. We've got what happens to, the wiener pig movement going, because that goes from Canada to the U.S. quite a bit. Has that shut down this week, or where is that at right now?
No, I don't believe it's shut down, and you're right. It's the industry is very much a just-in-time model on all facets of on all segments of that value chain, but it's one that all industry participants know that that's the case. And so I guess if in looking at the bright side, I think that the event of the plant going down in Quebec, it's not the biggest one in North America. It's I think it probably raised the appropriate concern that says we need contingencies in place, mm-hmm. That will address this, and it's there is, from time to time kind of stoppages here and there in different value chain. And so typically there is like a plan B along all aspects of it. But, we're obviously taxing those plan Bs in this type of environment when we already have all of these constraints that limit movement, animal movement, and everything that goes along with it. So I think it is, it is somewhat, business as usual, because there's no eliminating or pausing production. But hopefully we're using this opportunity where we still have a little bit of freeboard in North American packer capacity to reroute animals and keep those flows moving.
All right, we shall see, I suppose. I'm trying to figure out like a nice way to wrap this all up, but honestly, it's just, as you said, protein markets in general are just struggling to figure out where the demand curve ends up. And I definitely know that, we're talking right now about the hog industry, but, whether it's poultry or lamb or beef, these are full value chains that, there is exactly that process and that supply that moves through. And I just hope we have a home for everything at the end of the day, because nobody wants that disaster for sure. And I know consumers are doing their best and, still eating as much as they can, but there's only so much we can pack with in our freezers. So we'll just keep.
Yeah, absolutely. I think globally the demand scenario unencumbered is excellent for meat protein, mm-hmm. But you layer on the intricacies of this COVID-19, and it's really about ensuring the continuity of the whole value chain. That's what the focus has got to be on, and I'm optimistic that is where governments and industry are focused right now. I think we are all working together, I think, very well in order to address this tough time.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. All right, Tyler, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot for having me. Bye.